Hi! Video 2! On this one, I'm going to be making the Saw Cleaver from Bloodborne for Aussie Dan. That guy actually brought that up the first time I met him. And I remember because that was the last time I played Lance, Skate God Silver, to a game of Skate. I thought it was just going to be me versus Lance, and that was it. But Aaron was like, hey, you're going to play Lance in front of everybody at the Braille House. And we're going to live stream it. And you're going after Vinny Bond and Carlos do the Braille drop. Also, Andy Schrock and Brian Names are here. No pressure. And as I was outside practicing, freaking out, Aussie Dan came up to me and was like, oh, hey, you're the guy who makes the swords and stuff, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, can you make this? And here we are. 1 year later. So the first step with making the saw cleaver is you're going to need stencils. You can either go online and look up pictures and print them up to scale. I don't do that, so I can't really help you with that or give suggestions other than what I just said. I just hand draw them and I'm like, oh, that looks this big. Or I'll look up blueprints if they have them and they're like, oh, this is so many inches. And I'm like, okay, so it has to be this big. And I'll just draw it to be that big. So here's the stencil for the blade. The handle, which I'll probably make a different one, but I just needed something to be there in place. This, I don't know what it's called, but this is the handle. And I'm going to put it to some wood and then just cut it out. And then on each side, I'm going to put EVA foam and then sand it in to make it look round. And this is what it all looks like together. Hopefully, when it's done. So after tracing the stencil onto the wood, I'm cutting it with a jigsaw. And I'm using contact cement to apply it on the wood part and the EVA part. And with the Dremel, I'm just rounding out all the edges. So here is the handle. This piece right here is going to be for the spring, which is going to be connected to the trigger thing. And then I drilled 2 holes here. And this is going to be attached to those 2 pieces that I still don't know what to call. So here are the 2 pieces that are going to be holding the handle to the blade. I drilled 4 holes, and these 2 are going to be attaching it to the handle. This is going to attach it to the trigger, and this is going to attach it to the blade. So for the saw piece, there's going to be 4 layers of EVA foam, and in the middle of 2 of those is going to be a piece of wood, which is going to keep it from flopping around. The 2 center pieces of the EVA foam are going to look like this, which is, I just cut out a shape in the middle. And then this piece is going to be made out of wood for those center pieces, parts. For those notch things that the trigger is going to lock onto, I honestly just guessed. So just move it around and see the distance is where the blade goes to lock on and extend. And then just mark it there, and then that's where you put your notch. So it's probably a good time to check if everything fits. So it all fit, and it does the whole thing. So the spring is going to go on this, and right here is where the trigger is going to be attached to, and it'll lock onto this little gap right here. And then when it's out, it'll lock onto this one right here. So, should work. Remember when cutting EVA foam to use a new blade, it takes less force and the cuts come out cleaner. When using a lot of contact cement, it'll sometimes warp the foam, so don't freak out. When it dries out, it'll sink back down. When gluing a lot of layers together, you want to make sure you line them up as best as you can. This will make it a lot easier for you later when you start sanding it. I'm using an X-Acto knife and a Dremel to form the blade and sharpen the teeth. This takes a lot of patience and also a lot of time. For the scratches and dents on the blade, I kind of just wing it and just take off little by little until I'm satisfied with the way it looks. For the symbols on the blade, I'm using a wood burner. Make sure to use a respirator for this also, because the smoke that comes off of this is really bad. I'm using a heat gun to seal the foam and then coating it with Plasti-Dip. I want the blade to look really weathered and beat up, so I'm not using too much paint for this. And I'm using aluminum on the blade and teeth to make them look sharp. For the metal wiring on the handle, I just got a foam dowel and wrapped it around it and glued it with contact cement. For the wraps, I just used a white cloth, cut it up, and then dunked it in coffee. The camera stopped recording here for some reason, but I used super glue to attach the wraps to the handle. And I did the same for the blade. For the old bloodstains, I used red and black, more black than red. And for the newer looking bloodstains, I used more red than black. Then with some brown paint, I lightly coated it over some of the wraps and part of the blade to make it look more weathered. And used a small amount of silver to highlight some of the metal. Alright, that was a lot of fun. Aussie Dan is currently in Australia, so I can't do like, hey, here's the thing. But the next time I go to the Braille House, I'll make sure to give it to him and I'll record it and be like, here. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this if you enjoyed it. Or if you didn't, do it anyway. Just, come on. Follow all the Braille channels, Main Braille, Braille Army, and Braille Gaming. Alright, that's it. Oh, and I did beat Lance. It took a year, but I beat Lance.